I mean, like you was the last member of RBL to drop a solo album. What made you stay away from the solo thing? Everybody else was doing the solo. What made you stay away from the solo thing?
Well, at the time I had Mr. C and Hitman. We brought Hitman in later on to play a little part. We was getting him ready for his solo stuff. And it was just, I wasn't never really a solo artist. I was just really, we was talking about it. We was talking about getting Mr. C out. We was going to do a little Villain on the Under album, but we never really worked on it because we were so comfortable with each other. So once he had kind of passed away and I went through, my little slump with him, losing him, and I brought Hitman in, it just really wasn't the same. You know what I mean? The chemistry, like, because he's a lot younger than me. That was like little bro. And me and Mr. C, he a year younger than me, but he wasn't from the block, but he was more like a rapper, and he led. I looked for him to like lead the way in the studio. So I never really thought about doing a solo album. So after losing him, I just was like, man, it's time for me to step it up and just try to carve my own lane out, because I didn't want to ruin RBL legacy trying to still do RBL albums without Mr. C, and the sound ain't the same. You know what I mean? So once I did that Eye for an Eye album on Atlantic Records, I was just like, it just what didn't feel right. And we dropped one more album called Hostile Takeover. That did pretty good on Bayside. We probably sold about 50, almost 70,000 copies, but it just wasn't the same, So I just end up, just putting the cap on that. Just was like, it's time for me to start my solo career, and I just got rid of that nervousness, man, of being out on my own, and dropped that Last Man Standing album, and it did pretty well.
Yeah, because you got a voice. You definitely got a voice. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, Hitman, that album, the Solo Creep, I bought it 5 times myself. Yeah, so you got 5 sales from me.
That's the one.
You lose it. I mean, my favorite, man, all the G's in the house say hey. And all the G's in the house say ho. Man, that is my song. 45 Cavalier on my side when I'm running guts.
Yeah.
Like, I know the whole. Like, I'm really a fan. Like, that's my song. Like, man,
that Solo Creep, man, is that one.
It was crazy. I hear the rumors and talks. I don't have the charts. I hear it sold at least 150 or something like that.
It's sold like about 170. I pressed them all up myself, and I counted all.
That's amazing.
About 170 something. We lost track after that, but I pressed them up, did COD, cash on delivery with Walter.
Let's get a clap for that, bro.
Let's get a clap for that. Come on, man. What's happening? I bought it 5 times. I'm not gonna lie, I bought it 5 times because you in the car and the nigga steal the CD from you. So you gotta go buy it again.
Gotta go buy it again.
I mean, that's a classic CD, man.
Classic.
I mean, that's a classic.
Yes, sir.
Like, man, this dude he brought a style to the game that I haven't never heard again.
Yeah,
it's like
man. His
story,
metaphors,
like
man,
pimp storytelling.
Yeah.
Like it's like he like telling the story like a pimp would. Like, and it's like it's dope. You got to check it out. It's dope. Ain't nobody really ever did it again.
And he was young as hell.
He a 1-on-1.
Yeah, and he was young as hell at the time too, man. Hitman was young as fuck when we put out that first album. I think he was probably about 15, 16. Like he was real young, man, doing his thing.
Yeah, he was dope. Now it's confusing. I need you to clear up the confusion, because the first RBL Posse, y'all had so many people on the cover. People is confused about, when you look it up, you got 3 members. You go on there as 5, 6 people on the cover, so people confused on who was actually.
Nah. It was only me and Mr.C. No, it was only me and Mr.C and RBL. Even they was confused thinking Hitman was in it, but we just was using our platform to launch Hitman as a solo. But it was always just me and Mr.C. As far as the first cover, as you can see behind me, that I did that just with all my homies who I grew up with on the block. I just wanted them in it because I was a fan of NWA. So I was just like, I was into marketing. I was just like, man, when people see 5, 6 dudes on the cover, like how Ghetto Boys and them did their first cover.
It's a movement.
Like, see a crew, you like, hold on, let me see what this about. Let me see what's going on. So I didn't want to just do it with just me and Mr. C on the cover. So I just said, man, let's go and get we in our projects. Let's go and take some pictures. I brought Boob and Kurt and Mo and them in. And I just had them just stand in just for the cover, just for the artwork. So that was really it. They didn't play no part. They rap. They wasn't no DJs. They wasn't on the album. They just stood in for the picture. That was really it.
I'm glad you cleared that up because that's a big thing with RBL Posse. It's like, man, how many was it? You know, it's a big thing. You know, people is a little confused.
But that's why the second cover that you see behind me too is just me and Mr. C. I said the second cover because they didn't know what RBL stood for, so we said we're gonna just kill all the
Ruthless by Law.
And it stands. We're gonna just self-title the album "Ruthless by Law" so people know what it stands for. You know,
so knowing that you and Mr. C was the heart and soul of RBL, it's like, how did that affect you? You taking that loss and like losing that chemistry, losing that bond, and still pushing through and creating music.
Man, that was the hardest thing ever, man. I mean, I still ain't really got over it, you know, just because of how it happened, you know, and it was really, you know, like I said, that cover, even the cover, it was a split between us on the cover. The dude, you know, the two dudes in the back of us on the cover kind of got you a little bit jealous because, like you say, people thought they was in the group, and when people used to ask them, man, what did y'all do? Which verse, which song is you on? And they kind of felt like they needed to be a part of it now. So then they started trying to create their own label, do their own thing, and then all of a sudden it was a split. It was like you got Big Block Records, you got HRD Records, which was us, and it just we'll start bumping heads, and that's how Mr. C ended up losing his life, you know, with the jealousy in our neighborhood just splitting, you know what I mean, splitting into two.
And Mr. C, he died from gun violence, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. I mean, if you care to discuss it in detail.
Yeah, it was really just like I said, like it was just jealousy from some of the dudes from the group. You know, Mr. C was the dude who wasn't born and raised in our projects. You know, he was a good dude. He was raised by his grandmom and them going to church. All he was a rapper. And you know, he went up there with us like gang banging and slanging, like he didn't do none of that. You know, I brought him in straight from rapping through my boy T-Lo, who Herm Lewis had put out. He had was dating his sister. And I was trying to actually go to the studio with T-Lo, and T-Lo was like our Ice Cube in the neighborhood. And like I said, I was working on a couple songs. You know, I had the Don't Give Me No Bammer joint. I had a song called What About My Niggas where I'm naming a bunch of people and shit. I had Rolling Through the Turfs of HP. So, and A Lesson to Be Learned. That was all I had that before I had met Mr. C. So when I was ready to go do my stuff, I tried to go with T-Lo. T-Lo didn't want to go. He hooked me up with Mr. C. Mr. C came up there, and he had only been up there he came up there in like 91. So, you know, was new up there, and all these dudes, we all grew up together. Everybody on the cover with me, we all knew each other since knee high, you know, 2 years old, since we was coming out in the project. So, and that just caused, you know, jealousy. Mr. C was a good looking dude. A lot of the females was on him. And, you know, one thing led to another. There was a lot of little stuff taking place. Dudes getting beat up. Mr. C beat up a dude up there. Dudes got jealous. You know, we got framed for rape before we dropped our second album. We had to sit down for like 8-9 months behind some of them younger dudes who hung with them, bringing them to our studio we had in the neighborhood and using our name. And when they raped this little 14-year-old girl, you know, the little girl, when we talked to the police, said it was Black C and his brothers and them. So it was a lot of stuff like that going on that was compiling. So it was a big old fight, altercation. And yeah, we didn't think them dudes was gonna come out. We kind of underestimated them because we ran the block for years. And yeah, they ended up snaking Mr. C when we drove off, you know, on New Year's Day to go to a barbecue. Mr. C was out there hustling, hanging out with my sister, and yeah, they ended up snaking him, shooting him like 9 times.
That's unfortunate. It sounds like you had some rivalry going on in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just had a lot of beef and drama going on as you was reaching your success.
Right. Now I ain't in it. It sounds like you like I'm showing love to the block and it turned on you.
That's exactly bit. What it was.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, like
entitlement.
I put you on the album cover, you know, I kind of put like, and then it just, you know,
that's exactly what it was. You know,
and you know what's sad about that? In a lot of situations, I can speak from that perspective, not on your level, I'm sure. I'm sure you taking care of Fed and looked out for a lot of people, but it happens on smaller levels too. It's like a lot of times people don't know what to do with that, that generosity that you give. They don't know. They take it like I saw in one of your interviews, like a sign of weakness. Yeah. Well, really, we can all go left. But I'm trying to do right by you. You know what I'm saying? So that's unfortunate.
I hate to bring this up, but we got to talk about tragic situation happened to you. I heard you as a gunshot victim. Lost your eye.
Yeah. Got shot in the eye.